Thanks everybody for joining us. Yeah, and so my name is Robert Palmquist. I'm the CEO of a company called Speech Gear, and today we're talking about one of our products, which is called Streamer. And so I'm going to step you through some slides and get you to live demos. So I always think presentations should be live demos, versus just slides. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So again, thanks for joining us. Um, a link to the copy of these slides that I'll be showing you, and I'll go over these slides pretty quickly because again, I want to get to the demo. But a copy of these slides can be found at this link, and I did post that in the chat of this webinar for you. And so if I'm going a little bit fast, I totally get that in terms of the slides, but again, trying to get to a live demo. In the slides, whenever you see this sort of light blue, that's a link with more information. And in this case, the ability to download a copy of the slides that I'm presenting. And at the end of the presentation, for those that stick around, we'll set you up with a free Streamer account so you can start using the software. And so kind of nice to be able to do that. I guess I'll boast a little bit. We have been announced as the winner of the United Nations Zero Project, and this is kind of a big deal. And so the Zero Project is a team within the United Nations that's working on enabling or removing all communication barriers. So zero barriers to communication. And they went through a pretty exhaustive testing, and actually a really significant testing of various approaches, including comparing us with their human translators. And as a result of that, we won. Now, this isn't for the entire United Nations. This is for a particular group called the Zero Project. But that's kind of exciting. Um, so with Streamer, I'm going to talk a bit about what it does and how it's different than other captioning systems out there. But certainly you can use it for pretty much anywhere there's conversations, talking going on. And so a lot happening there, but we go well beyond just captioning. And so presenting words, obviously important, but things that I'll show you here is the ability for multilingual translation, spoken translation, so voice to voice. So a complete United Nations type situation where if you're speaking English and in that room, maybe you have one person that speaks Arabic, another Vietnamese, another Ukrainian, fourth Spanish, whatever it might be. Each participant is going to be able to see and hear what's being said in their native language. So when that individual who speaks Arabic responds in this situation, now we be going Arabic to English, Arabic to Spanish, that sort of thing. So way beyond bidirectional to providing this multi-directional capability. And we'll go into a lot of different aspects that we go way beyond. One big point, and so I was talking with Naomi just before we started here, and we're talking about privacy and security. And so with pretty much every automated system, and many of the human in the loop systems out there for captioning, your conversations are being recorded and the data is being sold and utilized by others. So be it Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, all these companies, the way they really make their money is finding about where you go, what you're doing, what you're buying, and especially what you're saying, what you're talking about. And so when you use the free apps, and many of them you even pay for, just be cognizant that everything that you're saying is being recorded and that data is being utilized to train engines, to push advertising to you, to push commercials on TV now if you're streaming like YouTube TV. So with Streamer, we're the opposite. And so the U.S. Marine Corps funded us to develop a private and secure system that they could use for in-theater operations. So by design, on day zero, Streamer was designed to be private and secure. And so with Streamer, unlike the others, everything that you say is going to be just between you and the others. There's nobody listening in on that conversation, recording it, or using your data or selling it to others. And that's a pretty significant difference between Streamer and any other application that's out there. Lots of other differences. Streamer runs on pretty much anything. And so any device that connects to the internet using a browser. So Streamer is not an app that you need to download and install and go through all that process. You simply go to the website. And so this is going to run happily on iPhones or iPads or Chromebooks or laptops, desktops, tablets. You know, $39 Fire tablet is going to happily run Streamer. And so you do not need some high-end gaming system, just any device that connects to the internet. And with that, it's going to work with pretty much everything. So here we're using Zoom. And so you can see the live captioning down in the bottom here. And so that's Streamer generating that captioning. And again, there is no person listening in on this conversation, nobody typing or anything like that. This is all automated. And so in this case, running with Zoom, but certainly I can run that with pretty much any other application. And Naomi and I were talking a little bit about different situations that you may be interested in, and we decided just to kind of leave it wide open. So I'll just step through this real quick. But Streamer certainly supports one-on-one conversation. And so if you're talking with somebody, you're going to be able to do that private and secure. Nobody else is going to have access to your transcripts or your data. We'll also support group conversations. And so with Streamer, we're going to be able to identify each individual as they speak. So you're going to see the name of that individual. And we're also able to caption when multiple people are speaking at the same instant. And that may sound like people are being rude or something like that, but it's very common in a meeting for somebody to be talking and somebody else to give what I call sociable feedback. They'll say, yeah, okay, sure, things like that. And so with Streamer, that's absolutely fine. If multiple people are talking at the same instant, we're happy with that. So Classroom's probably our #1 application for students that are hard of hearing or non-English speaking. But certainly presentations like this one, seminars, services. Again, you do not need to download and install an app. So things like a church service, for example, somebody could come in and just go to the website and be able to view that captioning on their own device and do it in their own desired language versus downloading and installing an app and accepting terms and doing all that. So lots going on here. I wanted to give you at least one specific usage, so I just picked a classroom in this particular case. But if you're working in an office type situation or something like that, it's kind of the same deal. And so in a classroom, typically the teacher is wearing a lapel mic. Here I have a headset on, but most times it tends to be a lapel mic. And then you have a student with some sort of device that connects to the internet. So that tends to be Chromebooks or iPads, but certainly laptops or MacBooks or anything like that would be absolutely fine. And so again, you just need that device that can connect to the internet. Open up a browser, and ideally you'll have somewhat of a good microphone. And in this case, we would like the teacher to wear the microphone because there's just so much background noise in a classroom. There's no such thing as a quiet classroom, just doesn't exist. But with that, what you have is a situation like this. So here we have a student sitting at a desk using a tablet, in this case, a Microsoft Surface, and that's it. So the point here being that they blend in very nicely with the rest of their classmates. You don't have some big bulky equipment sitting on their desk or anything like that. And that's very important, of course, to students and for adults. You kind of want to blend in with the peers. You don't want to be standing out. So the student can view the captioning at their desk. So you could project it on a front screen if you want. Certainly Streamer supports that. But by far, students prefer to have it at their desk. With that, they'll have a captioning of the classroom lecture, morning announcements. That's something that is often forgotten in schools, is the captioning and translation of morning announcements, school assemblies, things like that. As the transcript is being generated, the student can enter private notes and pictures into their transcript. And so if, for example, the teacher writes a math equation on the board, that's kind of hard textually to represent a math equation. And so all you have to do is take out your cell phone, if you are allowed to use them in the school classroom, but take a picture of that, and now that gets embedded directly into that place of your transcript. That's pretty powerful. And so if you're in a meeting and somebody showing or it's drawn an image on the whiteboard, again, you have the ability to take that picture and insert it directly into that portion, that part of the transcript. So again, very powerful in terms of being able to use what we call rich media as part of the transcript itself. All right. So again, teacher would just click on a desktop icon that launches Streamer, no apps or anything like that. The students at their desk, so you could have multiple students, maybe one wants it in English, another in Bulgarian, whatever it might be, and they're able to view that captioning and hear it in their desired language. And each student then can add their own personal notes to that transcript. So this is their personal copy of the transcript. So if they add a note like didn't understand, ask the teacher, or study for the test, whatever it might be, each student adds their own personal notes and nobody else is going to be able to see those. You download the transcript, and with Streamer, when you download a transcript, we always also use AI to automatically summarize the contents of that transcript. So maybe you have 10 pages worth of transcript. We'll summarize that down into one paragraph. And so it's a really nice little tip there, a little tool that allows you to look at that summarization at the top and know what that lecture was about, and then be able to dig in and see the entire transcript. So that's kind of what's going on in terms of how Streamer works. Some features I'll show you here. Again, multilingual synchronized translation. So everybody is going to be able to see and hear the captioning in their preferred language. So again, a classroom with multiple students that speak 20 different languages, we got you covered. No problem with that. A church service or a place of work, if you have customers coming in that maybe speak Mandarin, whatever it might be, you're going to be able to support all those individuals simultaneously. It's again going way beyond bi-directional. Note taking, as I mentioned the ability to add customized personal notes to your copy of the transcript. So these could be pre-configured. They could be typed in from scratch as you want. They could be editable notes, which means you have a placeholder. So something like this is due on, and then you have a blank. And so all you have to do is click and it says this is due on, and you type the date. And so all sorts of different features in terms of the note-taking abilities. Group discussion, again, we caption what everyone is saying, and we can identify each person even if they're speaking at the same time. No problem there. With Streamer, we also include a messaging feature. And so you can send private notes to groups or individuals. And so kind of nice to be able to do that. Document sharing, just drag and drop. And so again, going way beyond captioning. But now if you want to share a document with others in your meeting, just drag it into the transcript window and everybody has it. And so a really nice way to do that. I haven't mentioned speech generation yet, but if you have an individual who is nonverbal, you're going to be able to use Streamer to generate speech for them. And we have a really nice feature in that when the speech is generated, it's going to be generated on every participant's device. So instead of you being nonverbal and having to have some amplified speaker that you carry around, your voice is going to be sent to everybody's device, so they're going to hear it on their device. Sounds a little confusing, but in actual practice, that's really a huge difference. If you're looking for a speech generation system for somebody who's nonverbal, Streamer really is unique in that ability, and some very nice features that are going in there. Saving transcripts, I already mentioned that. The instant ability and to have the summary automatically generated. With Streamer, you can also enable system-wide settings for your particular needs. So that's the auto clear feature. And so if as a place of work, you want the transcripts automatically deleted at the end of the meeting. So when everybody's done, you can set that up. Maybe you want them deleted at 1 a.m. every morning. So all your Streamer rooms, the contents are completely clear at 1 a.m. You could do that. You could also set it up to auto clear every 10 minutes or every time a new sentence is spoken. You have complete control over your data and how it is saved. We do have some customers that have saved data forever. They never want to delete it. That's absolutely fine. And others set up these various parameters. One important point is, again, we treat your data as your data. We do not have any copies of it. And so when you clear your transcript, it is absolutely gone forever. And so about once a week, it's usually a law firm that's done a deposition of somebody. We get a panic call where they say, we accidentally cleared the transcript before downloading it. Can you send us a copy in your archives? And the answer is no. We do not do backups of your data because it's your data. We do not have copies of it. We take privacy and security very seriously. And so we do not make copies of your data. It's your data and yours alone. And so do remember to save that transcript before you delete it. A new tool that we have, Overlay, so that's kind of fun, where the captions can be displayed on top of any other application, so on top of PowerPoint slides, something like that, and can be displayed in whatever language you want. So that's kind of a fun one to do. And with the overlay, you can completely customize everything. You can choose the size of the fonts, the type of fonts, the color of the fonts, the color of your background, the transparency of your background, the line spacing, yeah, everything that's possibly on there. And so grouping features, lots of other ones that I'm going to skip over. And again, these are going to be all in your slides. And so later on, you'll be able to see that, including various getting started tutorials and things like that. But what I really wanted to do is get into a live demo. And so let me go ahead and do that right now, because I've been talking about 15 minutes, and I think it's more fun to show live demos than it is just to talk about something.
We do have a couple of questions in the
Yeah,
chat.
sure.
Okay, the first one is, do you see this replacing, or in colleges and schools, do you see this replacing CART?
Yes. Yeah, it really is at this point. We used to hedge a little bit on that. But cart services are quite expensive and you have to schedule them ahead of time. Typically, you don't get the transcript immediately. You do not have the ability to easily, anyways, add private notes or anything like that to the transcript or to capture images or anything along those lines. So at this point, yeah, we're pretty much replacing cart services. We've done all sorts of tests. Customers have done lots of tests, and we do outperform in terms of accuracy cart services. I can say that quite confidently now. For a while there, we were slightly behind, and now we've significantly passed them. And I should mention that a little bit. With a cart service, you can have a human that's going to do really good for maybe a half hour, but then they sneeze or they yawn or something like that, and their performance at that point goes to zero for that short moment. And so you might have high performance and then very significant low performance and then back to high performance. With Streamer, you're always going to get consistent performance all the time. It's on demand in whatever language you want. And so, yeah, we're pretty much doing that. Now, the related question to that is, are we replacing sign language? And I definitely don't feel we're replacing sign language. And so if you have somebody who is deaf, they're really going to be more comfortable using the sign language. And so I don't want to say that we're going to be replacing sign language. Certainly if that's your primary language of communication, we certainly encourage people to get sign language interpretation up to speed for them. Okay. You said there were a couple of questions.
Yes. Just to further clarify, are there any schools that have, or colleges that have gone strictly to Streamer and replaced CART that you may know of?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, so hundreds. We're used by probably 50,000 users in any given day. And so certainly lots of schools using our system. We again take privacy very seriously, so I won't mention names of them, but there is one school in England that put out a case study of using Streamer where they replaced all their cart and translation services. And so we're going to send you a follow-up email, so I'll include that case study for you. It's a university, I think, based in Southampton, England. But yes, definitely we are being used by a lot of schools and colleges all over the place.
Great. And just
Okay.
another
Yeah.
follow-up to that one. How does it do with like very technical college courses that are really involved, that have like biology, that have
Sure.
really
Yeah. Yeah, we absolutely love technical terms. And so biologic, if you're taking a biology class or something like that, we love that type of vocabulary. The
okay,
longer the word, the more phonemes that are in the word, the easier it is to recognize. And so it's short words that would be more difficult. Um, so the highest accuracy is going to be in a college level course where there's lots of technical words. And that's going to be the best. I'll also give you the worst case scenario. Streamer gets used a lot for graduation ceremonies for universities, particularly in COVID days, where it was a lot of online abilities. And so where Streamer is going to have the most difficulty is when you have individual names that are being pronounced. And so the spelling of last names can be challenging. So as the student was walking across the stage, they would say their name, and that's where it's going to be the most difficult, is identifying the proper spelling of each of those individual names, because there's so very little context surrounding that given word. But definitely in a technical university class, that's probably going to be the highest accuracy. And so yeah, we love those types of situations.
okay.
Mm,
And
okay.
one more question for a
Yeah.
student who is moving between numerous classes with different teachers, will it make the most sense for the student to have their own site rather than the teacher having a site? How might
Yeah.
that work with different sets
No, that's a great question. Very insightful question. So let me jump
of
around here.
transcripts for different classes? Can you
Yeah.
say the transcripts be
Mhm.
organized into folders?
Yeah. So what we have within Streamer, we'll get a little more into detail here. So what you're going to have for a school or a place of work or church, whatever it might be, you're going to have one main admin account. And this is the all-powerful account. And with that account, you are going to be able to jump into any room, configure those rooms, assign them to a student, for example. In this case, Greenville 3 was assigned to Adam Gilbertson. And by the way, this is just a example. These are not actual customers. But you as your admin account would have access to all the rooms that you're going to have with your system. Now, each student, so in this case, Adam Gilbertson, when they log in, they're only going to see their given room. So Adam would see room 3, but Adam's not going to see these other, in this case, 4 rooms. So we have school districts, for example, with 5,000, 6,000 rooms that they have, very large school districts. And the admin account would have access to all those, but each student is going to have access to their single room. And they're going to typically, in the US anyways, they're going to use that room for all their classes. So in this case, Adam would have this particular room, and everything that the teachers say is going to be captioned in that particular room as Adam goes through the course of the day. And at the end of each class period, Adam would download that transcript, save it, and clear it, and go to the next class. So again, Adam in this scenario only has one Streamer room, so one subscription, and Adam is going to be using that for each of his classes and afterwards, maybe basketball practice or something like that. So the key point here is Adam does not need 7 Streamer rooms to support 7 different class periods. Just a single room that Adam would use for all those given classes. Okay. When you jump into a room, so here I have one, and let me go ahead and show you some more. I'm conscious of our time here. I'm going to scale this down to 100% because I'm going to start putting a lot of stuff on the screen here. So I know that's a little bit hard to read maybe, but let me turn on my side panel here. But I do want to show you some of these features. And so, for example, I mentioned adding notes. And so on this side panel, I can go ahead and do this. I could double click something like didn't understand. And that note is inserted directly into that part of the transcript. So you can see it down there. And when you print out that transcript, it's going to be included in it. You can customize these notes to however you want. And again, they're your private notes. Nobody else is going to see them. Those are yours and yours alone. So a really nice feature to be able to do that. Let me show you some other things. For example, I mentioned the ability to have what we call rich media embedded into the transcript. And so I just kind of wanted to show that. So in this case, if I include a, there we go, a YouTube video. So in this case, it's just a soccer video, but that's built directly into your copy of the transcript there. Let me turn off that volume. So it's an example of being able to use rich media and have that get embedded directly into your particular copy. And so I could do that with pretty much anything that I want. Earlier I mentioned the ability to drag and drop documents. So let me go ahead and show you that. So if I click a document, for example, what do I have here? Roman history. I'll click that. And so in this case, I can go ahead and attach that. And then that's going to get sent directly to that person's copy. I'm sorry, to everybody in that particular chat room. And so the ability to embed videos or slides or audio files or again, pictures of a whiteboard, anything like that, that's going to be directly embedded into your copy of the transcript. So going way again beyond the ability to just have captioning, to also have this rich media tools is a really powerful feature for everybody in terms of being able to take notes and to have that be part of your capabilities. Show you some other features real quick here. How are we doing on time? I did want to show language translation. And so let me go ahead and do that. Right now I'm speaking English and you're seeing the captioning in English displayed here at the bottom. And I'm going to open up some more windows here just to show you these abilities. And so in this case, what I have in the upper left, let me get back to that. There we go. And I know I've got a lot of stuff open here. So let me kind of step you through what's going on. There we go. So what I've done here is in the very bottom, you can see the English being presented, and that's what I'm speaking. And so that's where it's being generated. Now, another student, in this case, somebody who is speaking Ukraine, could log into Streamer using this particular account. And if they did that, everything that they're seeing is going to be translated into Ukraine. So let me make this a little bit bigger for you. And again, they just picked Ukrainian. We support well over 100 languages. And so this is for a student or a person that would prefer to have the captioning be displayed in their native language, in this case, Ukraine. As you see this, you can see I'm speaking and the words initially appear in English because that's what I'm speaking. And once we have sufficient context, then the translation gets generated. And so once that context is there, it takes about 1/10 of a second for the translation to appear. So we do not do just word for word translation, which would be really inaccurate. So in this case, we use full contextual based translation. So again, this is what the student or person who speaks Ukrainian would be able to see. And you can see they can insert Ukrainian notes into their copy of the transcript, that sort of thing. But over here, what I've also done is load in this particular one Hindi. And so in this case, somebody that would prefer to have the captioning in Hindi would log in using this account and they'd be able to see it. And over here, I did Spanish. And so what you're seeing is everything that I'm saying be simultaneously translated, in this case, into 3 languages: Ukrainian, Hindi, and Spanish. And you could do this for 100 languages simultaneously. And when somebody who speaks Hindi responds in their native language, you're going to be able to see and hear that in your case, English. And it's also going to be translated into everybody's language. So again, a complete United Nations type capability. So some pretty powerful stuff here. Now, in addition to having it being presented in textual format, it can also be spoken out loud. So we don't have to assume somebody has the ability to read. And so with Streamer, even though I'm speaking English, it would be spoken out in this case to the person logging in Ukrainian, in this case Hindi, and in this case Spanish. If you're in a classroom, you'd want each student probably to wear an earbud or something like that. But I hope you get the idea here. So we're going way beyond bidirectional translation to support simultaneous language translation. So a lot happening here. Let me jump back to the PowerPoint slides real quick. Just because I promised you that we'd give you the ability to sign up for a trial and show you how to do that. And so let me do that right now. There we go. Contact information, again, you'll be able to download these slides. We'll include those in the email that gets sent out to you. But here's how you can start your own Streamer account. And so Streamer cost-wise, it's about $9 a month. Again, we do not sell your data, like the free apps do. That's how they make their money, is selling your data to others and utilizing that data. In your case, with Streamer, your data is yours alone. We do not record it. We never generate voice recordings. We do not save your data, sell your data, or anything like that. So we do have to charge a little bit of a fee to keep the servers alive. And so that's about $9 a month or $99 a year. And that's for unlimited usage. You can create as many user accounts as you want, share your subscription with as many people as you like. And so it's a pretty low cost system. Again, $9 a month or $99 a year. So the way you would start up is go to streamer.center and just click on the more info button, and that's going to bring you to a forum. And with that, you'd fill in the form. We do need your email so we can send you the instructions on how to log in, that sort of thing. You are going to name your Streamer account. And what we recommend is that pick whatever name you want, followed by -admin. And that's going to be your main admin account. So it's nice just to have that -admin in there. So maybe you want to make that for yourself, Johnson-admin, or the name of your business, whatever it might be. Again, go ahead and do that. It's very easy to change that later on. So don't worry too much about making it perfect. And you're also going to name your Streamer room. So this is the name of the room. And typically we recommend you start with something like -01. Again, we have some customers that have actually over 10,000 rooms now in their system. But start with something like 1 or 2 or something like that, and just go ahead and name that room. And so that's it. With that, we'll be able to send you an email with information on how to log in and how to get started on using Streamer, and use it to caption, translate, take notes, and all the above information that you may have. So again, here's my contact information, and I think we're just at about that half-hour mark. And so I'm going to increase the font size here so people can see this a little bit better, and open it up for questions. And certainly those that have to leave, I totally understand. All right. So with that, do we have any more questions?
Yes, we do. Is
Okay,
there a
great.
listing of which languages are supported for translation?
So we support a little over 100 languages, so there's a lot of them. When I say 100 languages, for example, we probably have I'm going to guess 15 dialects of Spanish. So Mexican, English, Guatemalan, Venezuela, obviously Spain. And so we're counting all those different dialects as an individual language. But yeah, definitely well over 100 languages at this particular point, and certainly support things like Arabic and Ukrainian, Hindi, Japanese, Korean. So we don't need the English font set. We can certainly support a variety of different languages. Okay.
Is there a listing on your website for those languages so that if you're
Yes.
looking for something specific?
Yeah, there is. It's going to be a little hard for you to find. So I will include that in the email that's going to get sent to you in, half hour or something like that. Yeah. Is there a particular language that you know off the top of your head?
Gujarati is one that we're running into more than I would have
Cool.
expected here in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Wow.
lots of neat languages like that. All right. Yeah. We'll get you a listing of that. And if a language that you need doesn't exist, let us know. At this point, it's kind of easy to add them. The AI tools that we have are in place that it's gotten significantly easier. Back when we started this, it took about $1 million per language, and now it's much faster. so that's fun. Good question. What else do you have?
Do you have
Have you had any experience with blind students using this? With their
Yeah, we
screen
do.
readers?
We've been working a little bit with deaf blind and such, and so we have a special mode that you will utilize to connect this with a Braille display. And so if you're going to be using literally a Braille display, somebody who is blind, not just sight impaired, let us know and we'll show you how to set that up. But yeah, definitely we can connect up to a Braille keyboard. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about somebody with low vision?
I was talking about using JAWS or NVDA for someone who's blind, who is
Yep.
not using Braille.
Yep. And so we can do things like that as well. And it gets a little more complicated, but definitely we have some customers that are doing that. So that'd be one that contact us, and we'll step you through those items.
And also for students that are not good readers and need text to speech, is there an option to add that to the transcript or use a text to speech engine so they can read through the transcript?
Yeah, I didn't get into all the features that we have going on here. But in streamer settings, lots of menus here. And again, only a half hour. But what we have is this continuous TTS option. And when you turn that on, then the words are going to be continuously spoken. And so that's one way of doing it. And the other way is that if you hover over a paragraph, you're going to see this little play arrow. And so that's going to voice aloud just that particular paragraph. And that's why we have these paragraph breaks in here. So you can have a paragraph repeated. So you can either have continuous TTS, or you can have individual paragraphs. And one that I found kind of interesting, so this is taking a little break, but I found this fascinating, is that this particular school year, we've had quite a few students, quite a few meaning a few dozen, not thousands, where for whatever reason, the students have difficulty understanding higher pitched voices. And so if they have a teacher that has a higher pitched voice, they're having Streamer revoice that into a lower pitched voice. Does that make sense? So their hard of hearing frequencies are in the higher spectrums, and Streamer can revoice what the teacher is saying into a deeper voice. I found that kind of fun. I just thought that was neat. Other questions?
Is Swahili and Karen available in languages?
In both cases, I think yes. I don't have the list entirely mentioned. Swahili, I'm really confident. Karen is, I believe, available too, because we've gotten requests for that in the past. But again, I'll get you that whole link of languages, a list of languages, and we'll include that in the email that gets sent to you. In all cases, all of the languages that we have will have the translation capability and the ability for you to speak that language. In some languages, we have not generated the voice synthesis engine yet. That gets a little more complicated to do that these days. So in some languages, you won't have the ability to have it be spoken out loud. Maybe we're up to 130 languages. Maybe there's 5 of them that do not have the ability to have it be spoken out loud. But all the languages support translation to and from any language, as well as captioning of people speaking in that language, and typing. You could type stuff too if you want to use a keyboard. These are fun questions. What else do you have?
One other question.
Yeah.
are you in the works of like separating by speaker?
Yes. Yeah. So
Like,
over
so
on the
you
left
could,
side here, you can't really see that because it's just me speaking. But if I turn this off, go all the way to the top. So this is the entire transcript of everything we've been saying. Over on the left side here, you will see the person who is speaking. So in this case, you can hover over, see the avatar, see their name. And so in this case, I'm zoomed in quite a bit, but if I zoomed out, you'd be able to see the entire name of the individual. And we'll do that for everybody that is speaking. And so if this was a room, so in this case, now I have Robert Palmquist. And again, if you hover over it, you'll see the name. And so over on the left side here, you will see the identifier of each person that is speaking. And so if we had configured this, you know, for 10 people being in a room, whenever anybody speaks, it'll be listed over here on the left side. And again, with Streamer, it's fine if people are talking at the same instance over each other, which happens all the time in conversations. But yeah, that's where that particular notification is shown. And then over here on the side panel, again, I kind of went over a lot of stuff. What you're going to see is the individuals that are in the room. So in this case, we have Chris, Robert Palmquist, myself, Hindi. So these are the room owners, and then we have guests down here. And so it's going to show you a listing of all the people that are in your particular room. So a room owner would be the equivalent of host in Zoom, and users would be guests in Zoom. We just like those terminology better. So this is all who is participating in the conversation. And over on the left side, you'll see a identifier as to who is saying what. Okay.
great.
Yeah,
Is
so let me
there
turn this back on again.
Is there any way to look up words, get information about words when a student's going through the transcript after the fact?
Not within Streamer. So we don't have a dictionary lookup capability, which is kind of a neat idea, though. Nobody's actually suggested that before. But when you save the transcript, so you'd come up here to Streamer and you can download the transcript. You have the ability to select the time frame. So, you know, the last hour, last day, whatever. Select the format. So I use Word. So I'm going to select DocX. And here's where you include a summary of that. But when you save it, for example, as a DocX, a Word format, then you could use those tools within Word to be able to look up terminology. So kind of there. But yeah, definitely if you're saving this as a Google Doc or something like that, you're able to select the format and be able to do that. So yeah, lots of other features that we didn't get into, you know, like messaging. If I wanted to send a message to this particular account, I could just click on the name and be able to do that then. So lots of other features that we didn't have in here. Just didn't have time to demonstrate. I'll include in the email that gets sent to you a list of all the features of Streamer. It's pretty long, but take a look at that. So the list of features, and the languages supported, and all the link to the slides, and I'll include like a one-page info sheet or something like that as well. Okay. Other questions?
I have a question. So I'm thinking about students in a classroom. So is it the idea then that Streamer, the students will be like reading a paragraph or something, and Streamer identifies them? Like they need to train Streamer to identify their voice in order for them to be identified in the transcript? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, there's no training at all. There's no concept of having to train your voice or something like that. So what the student is going to do, what you're going to do is set up a Streamer account for that student. And so if, for example, you were in a classroom, you're the teacher and you have, pick a number, 18 students that want to view the captioning. You have sort of two choices here. You could set up the, but what most schools in the US do anyways. In the Middle East, it's different. But the way you would set it up in the US is the teacher would have an account And then you would create a separate account for each of those 18 students. Accounts are free. You can have as many as you want. It takes about 30 seconds to create an account. If you had, let's say 50 students, have us create the accounts for you. We do that for free. We have all kinds of really nice tools that make it very easy for us to create accounts for your students. So no problem there. So once you've created those accounts, then the student would log into Streamer using their account, and that's how we identify it's that individual speaking. And so depending on the account they've logged in with, that's where that text will be attributed. And so you as a teacher would have your account, each of those 18 students would have their individual accounts, and that's how they're going to log into Streamer and access the room. And whatever they're saying is identified to them through that account. Okay, and again, accounts completely free. You're encouraged to create as many accounts as you want, and we have schools, actually quite a few schools these days, where we go ahead and create an account for every student in the district and every staff member in the district. We do that at the beginning of the year, and then each week we do updates. So as students leave, teachers leave, that sort of thing, we'll update those accounts for them. And we do that all the time. And we have all sorts of tools that automate that process. I should mention one thing, since we're talking about schools. Typically in the US and Canada, we have what's called IEPs. And so the IEP is used to identify a particular student, and that student then qualifies for captioning services or translation services, whatever it might be. In that scenario, a school typically purchases a single subscription for that student, so one per student. And then that student is going to use that throughout the course of the day. So again, if that student has 7 classes, they do not need 7 subscriptions to Streamer. They're just going to use one, and they're going to use that throughout the course of their day. Now, in the Middle East, it's done quite differently. So in the Middle East, the philosophy is that if any student has access to an accommodation, then every student should have equal access to that accommodation. No concept of IEPs and just having a single student be picked out. So over there, every student has to every student has to have equal access to each accommodation. So in that scenario, what they're doing is they're signing up a Streamer room for every physical room in their campus. So each classroom, the principal's office, the media center, the lunchroom, every physical room has an equivalent Streamer room. And so that way, any student that walks into any room is able to view the captioning at that instance. So in the US, that would be equivalent to some schools using Soundfield systems, where they put in a classroom amplification system. So again, in the Middle East, that's how it's always done. In the US, typically they focus more on individual students versus campus-wide, but Streamer certainly supports either approach. Got a little bit into the weeds there, but I hope that makes sense.
It does. And then one quick thing. So with, you're in the classroom with the students, like 18 students plus, do other schools have then each of those students sign, like a privacy agreement or agreeing to use this, and then can, like, have you had an option where someone opts out of it?
We have never gotten involved with that. So I don't know if schools do that, but I'd be surprised if they do. Yeah, it's never been an issue. So every school district is unique with their particular situation. One key point in this area is that Streamer does not generate voice recordings. And so legally, that's a big issue. So like if you were in California, generating a voice recording of what somebody says requires permission slips. If you're following the letter of the law, you would have to get advanced permission to generate that voice recording. And along those lines, we deliberately designed Streamer to not generate voice recordings. So we don't do that. Voice recordings do not exist. So legally, you do not need to get permission to create something that's not created. And so that's very unlike, for example, Google Voice or things like that, where they are absolutely recording you. They absolutely use that recording for their AI engines and advertising and all the above. And we're exactly the opposite. We do not generate voice recordings. They don't exist. You can't save a voice recording because, again, we don't ever create one.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah,
I was
so that's
just under
kind
the
of a-
assumption that you did both, but that clarifies a lot. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
and
you
I should have mentioned that earlier, because that is a big deal. And I think we're probably quite unique in that we don't generate voice recordings. Even your cart services are going to have voice recordings generated. Yeah, we've taken privacy and security very seriously. And again, that goes back to our genesis, day zero, working with the U.S. Marine Corps, where they needed security, privacy and security for their theater operations. And again, it's not an afterthought. Zoom, for example, security is very much an afterthought. If you remember when Zoom first started getting used, there was a term called Zoom bombing, where people would jump into meetings and disrupt them and stuff like that. So they put Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid, trying to make Zoom secure. With Streamer, it's very much the opposite. Security is designed from day zero. These are great questions. Any others?
Any other questions? If not, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Robert,
Yeah.
for joining us.
Well, thanks for the invitation. And I'll get that email sent out to you, Naomi, and so you can send that out to the participants. And I'll do that roughly in about 10-15 minutes here.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a
All right.
great day.